Previously on Glowbox, built in public.
There is no class that you can go and take that tells you exactly how to go from a concept to $1 million a year annual repeating revenue business. So we decided that we're going to do something a little crazy. We're going to build in public. We're going to let people see the embarrassments that we've already had. I'm experienced at this. I mean, how many startups did we launch last year?
Like 3?
3 or 4, yeah, in 1 year.
Yeah.
We're good at this. Like, this is what we do. 9 out of 10 startups fail, not because the founder didn't work hard, but because the market said no. Our team knows how to build products. We know how to launch software, but markets don't care about plans. So here's the challenge. Can Glowbox reach $1 million in annual recurring revenue in just 12 months? This isn't a case study. It's a live experiment. Can it be done? Watch and find out. Knowing an audience is the differentiator between to a lot of extent, companies that fail and companies that succeed. So we know 90% of startups fail, and we know this because historically that has been very well measured. The Small Business Administration in the U.S. government knows this. There's been tons of metrics on this, but 90 to 95% of filed startups fail. And 40% of the time, it's because of a lack of product market fit. Now, product market fit gap means that you've built something that either doesn't resonate with the target audience or never considered a target audience to begin with. And kind of the hope is, and you have people out there like Lean Startup, these people, they say build, measure, learn. You should just go out and build something. You have an idea, build it. It could be the next $1 billion idea. There's no such thing as a $1 million idea. There's only $1 million companies. And so when we went to start building Glowbox, we came up with the idea for this season. We identified an audience that had a very specific problem with a high amount of urgency. And that is really what we're fixating on. We're fixating on the problem. We hear people say this all the time, fixate on the problem, not on the solution. We're fixating on the problem, but we're also fixating on our audience. What are they trying to achieve? Who are they? How are we going to reach them? How can they access our product once we build it? How are they going to interact with us? All things that are critical for marketing, of course. Valeria, you can't build an ICP and go and talk to people about what we've built if you don't know who they are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but also, how do I build a product for them if I don't know who they are? And that is, I think, a critical gap in the startup world is we're not fixating on our founders, on our audience. Lots of fixation on the founders, not on the audience. So can you introduce Glowbox's audience for us?
Yes, of course. So basically, anyone who uses outbound email will take an advantage of Glowbox. But we're talking about sales teams that are huge. Like, let's say a sales rep who is sending 200 emails, and you have a sales team of 20 people. How many emails are you sending just for one sales team? So, agencies, we're talking about BPOs, SaaS companies. And we were also having a conversation with one of these BPO companies, and they even had an issue with internal communication. So it's not just sales and marketing. We're talking about a problem that is for internal teams as well. She
Well, you
was
know why they're having that problem, right?
right. Yes.
So what happens is when you're sending emails at volume, which could be sustained volume of 200 emails per day, even off one account, that's enough for the email providers to start saying you are not a reputable sender. So what happens is once, and this large BPO, once they were determined that they're not a reputable sender, they also filter their own mail based off of reputable senders, and they themselves were being excluded because of that. Now, we're not recommending using Glowbox for internal communication. That's not going to work. But what it will do is improve your sender reputation to the point where your domain isn't marked in a bunch of blacklists.
Yeah, that's right. Because, they lack a reliable, unified system. But you can tell that there's a problem when this lady we were talking to, she was a sales manager. She wasn't even getting the emails from her boss. So,
Yeah.
they were getting into spam folder. So you can tell this domain lacks of reputation.
Yeah, and we were talking to the founders, and this is one of the things that's really important is how do you validate your audience? So once we say, hey, small businesses, agencies, anybody that's using traditional CRMs or maybe even legacy systems for sending emails, they need a more robust system and it needs to be unified. Um, but that's not just me saying it. We went and listened to them, right? So how did we validate that this audience? And I do want us to be more clear on the audience itself. So let me actually read our audience statement. So our audience statement is outbound email operators and growth enablement leaders in the B2B services, SaaS, and digital marketing firms, including agency owners, in-house ops leads, RevOps managers responsible for lead generation, sales pipeline performance via outbound email. They operate in tool dense environments using platforms like Apollo, Instantly, HubSpot, Mailgun, Gmail, Mailivery, on and on, across small to mid-sized teams in North and Latin America. Um, so this audience can be small businesses. It could be other founders. It could be agencies. We targeted sales teams at BPOs because we could just walk in and talk to them, right? Which also led to call centers because we have friends that run call centers and we can just go and talk to them. Um, so once we identified an audience, how do you qualify that that's the right audience and that we actually understand their problem?
Yes. So, well, as I was saying, they lack a reliable unified system to ensure consistent email deliverability. So, one of the things we could identify was that they were worried that they were going to be using multiple systems. Like, are we going to change tools? Like, is Glowbox going to replace them? And this is something that a lot of people care about because, like the process of replacing the tools you are already used to, that's an issue.
Yeah,
But
it's expensive. It's painful.
it's a
But
lot.
how did we go and talk to people in our audience and verify the problem statement with them?
Yes, definitely. There was a problem there, and they are concerned about email outbound not working anymore for
Yeah.
sales. So they're like, I'm doing this because I need to hit my 200 emails that I need to send for today, but I am not really confident that they will receive these emails because I know
Yeah, and
that.
that's the funny thing too is they say we have to send 200 emails a day. But then when you drill in with these folks, and this is one of my problems with using CRMs and with the whole metric based outbound prospecting, they're not trying to send 200 emails a day. Their goal isn't to send 200 emails a day. Their goal is to generate X amount of revenue per day, per year, per quarter, whatever it is. So a lot of times, especially I've noticed this in sales, but a lot of times in business, we conflate velocity with progress. We're sending 200 emails. We're making 400 dials. We're connecting 77 calls per day, but we're not making our sales goals. So, and that's what we found is these folks, yeah, they're sending 200 emails a day per sender account. So one of the BPOs we talked to, just their in-house sales team they have 8 people. They're sending 2,000 emails a day for a cold every single day, and they're burning their domain. Plus, they have marketing teams. Plus, they have outbound sales, external sales. all using the same domain to send emails cold. And they're doing that hoping that once every 2 or 3 times a month they get new meetings, and once a quarter they get a new sale.
Yes.
And we look at their open rate and it's like 1%, 0.6%. Um, Imagine what happens if their open rate goes up to 40%. And we've asked them this, hey, what happens if your open rate goes to 40%? What happens if your current contracted customers start getting their emails in the inbox? Because Valeria, you're in sales, you know this. So last year, I needed to close $10,000 in sales at the end of the year. I'm not going and getting a new customer. I'm going and talking to my existing customers, and I'm offering them an additional service. And if my existing customers can't get my emails, then I have a real problem. And last year, that exactly thing happened to us. Is our existing customers that we have been communicating with for a long time stopped getting our emails during contract negotiation time.
Yeah.
So we would send contracts and they would not get them, and we would try to call them, and we were doing what we could, but they weren't getting the contracts. There could be $1 million in loss just because a current client doesn't sign a contract and we're not able to retain the talent for our teams. So the consequences are high. And also, I mean, a lot of our customers have a message that's important. People in our audience have a message that's important, and they need to make sure that the people that they're targeting get it. Jeb Blount wrote the book Fanatical Prospecting, and he says that you have to make sure that your sales efforts never become too arbitrary, too automated, because at the end of the day, it's a person attempting to connect with another person. And then one of the founders of Apollo actually says that sales is not a numbers game; it's a math game. Meaning, if you're just sending out 10,000 emails a month and nobody opens them, you've met your numbers, but you haven't met your goal. And one
Exactly.
of the biggest inhibitors to actually reading your goal is making sure that you've got the right email in front of the right person at the right time, the right message, however you send it to them, right? And this is definitely a problem so at Cantalo, we've solved this problem. We have on a cold email outbound, we have a 45% open rate, which is unheard of, right?
Yes.
You've done some research on this. Have you ever heard of a 45% cold open email rate?
Yeah, that's high. And the problem is that we identify this issue when it's too late
Yeah.
because our work is reactive. So there's
Yeah.
no way to identify it. If you say, okay, I was getting 3 meetings last week, now I'm not getting any meeting, and maybe I haven't changed my sequences. So
Yep.
that's when it's
Yeah.
too
And
late.
then you can go and address working sequences, but it doesn't change the impact. And you might be messing with something if you're addressing the wrong thing. But at Cantalo, what we did was we implemented several different products. We implemented Mailgun and Mailivery and Apollo and multiple tools layered on top of each other, and we put together this approach, and it worked. But it's really expensive and really time consuming. And there's if we need to get new emails up, it's expensive and it takes a long time. And I end up being the one that does it, me or JC, and either of those two resources are high dollar, high impact resources. So there had to be a better way, and that's kind of how we got to this audience. Was I'm in this audience, I need to be able to send. Now we have ClickFunnels, and ClickFunnels is great as a funnel tool, and it could work great for sending newsletters, but it only allows one email account. So one email account outbound. Well, this is the same thing for Go High Level. It's the same thing for we have the same problem in HubSpot. HubSpot marketing. We talked to agencies that use Salesforce. Same problem. So then they go and use SalesLoft. Guess what? SalesLoft doesn't rotate mailboxes. Same problem. Sales agencies, they can't just go buy and implement domains and then put email workspaces on those domains and then execute them. They don't know how to do it. They don't have those capabilities. And that's where Glowbox came from, is addressing a problem felt by an identifiable audience, somebody that we can reach. So let me go through the actual problem statement here. So we reviewed our audience. So a lot of our people that have watched our show before have heard me talk about the audience, problem, pain, cause, consequence, and urgency. And I tell people, if you've got a small audience with a minor pain, no consequence, and not much urgency, don't build the product. But if you have a large audience with high pain, with a with a strong urgency, high consequences, and you can create a solution to reduce that pain and save them from those consequences, build it fast, take it out and test it, and you're going to go really far. And I think that's what we've identified here, is we've identified a large audience.
Right.
And their problem is they lack reliable, unified systems to ensure consistent email delivery from existing legacy systems, forcing them to manage fragmented tools, complex workflows to maintain sender reputation, inbox placement, and reply rates, and they have to change their processes to enable these things. Their pain is it forces high value operators, such as myself, to spend excessive time in manual troubleshooting, managing DNS records, debugging warm up issues, or adjusting configurations, instead of focusing on segmentation, copy, funnel strategy, sales performance, or overall business strategy. Their work is reactive, not strategic. As a result, they struggle to maintain a healthy sales pipeline. Inconsistent deliverability directly contributes to lost revenue through fewer qualified leads and stalled conversations. Their cause is their current tooling ecosystem is fragmented, technically brittle. Key systems, CRMs, outbound platforms, warm-up tools, and infrastructure rarely integrate smoothly, leaving critical gaps. Many platforms only offer partial visibility and have steep learning curves or require constant intervention to function correctly. So now when you start seeing, all right, so here is the problem, pain, and cause, you can immediately start understanding where some of our design in Glowbox came from. So we did, and actually this is listed in our patent, we're using SMTP to accept emails into our email infrastructure, which is the exact opposite of what SMTP is for. But we've inverted the control on the SMTP. That means that I have my virtualized inbox, and that virtualized inbox acts like a real mailbox, and I can connect it to a CRM, high level HubSpot, Salesforce, SalesLoft, even Apollo instantly. All of these tools can connect to what they think is one email box, send bulk email to it. And behind the scenes is all of this logic and all of these algorithms and all of this power, ensuring that you have consistent, stable delivery coming from highly reputable email boxes. And that at the end of the day, I'm handling all the hard stuff in our logic, and your message is connecting directly to the people that need to hear it without having to know how any of this other stuff. And so you can see the solution came from understanding our customer, not from an idea that somebody had one night. The consequence. So when this problem persists, lead flow suffers due to poor inbox placement and reduced reply rates. Clients or executives misinterpret technical issues as messaging or target failures, eroding trust in the operator. Teams burn out from low leverage work and mounting pressure to perform. Agencies risk losing clients, and internal teams risk being sidelined in strategic growth decisions. Or other consequences could be that your business loses overall reputation because you're misusing your infrastructure. Cantalo Consulting does not use our main domain, cantalo.net, for emailing at all. We use it for communicating with our existing clients and internal, and that's it. We're not even people when we go to an event and people opt in. Every time we go to an event, 2,000 people opt in. I'm not sending that contact to opt-ins from Contello.net. I'm sending it from ContelloContacts.com. And those contacts are metered. They go out slowly, and they go out from reputation managed mailboxes, because I need three things to happen at the same time. One, I need our domain that we run our business with, that we use for all of the security and all of the infrastructure in our business. I need it to have a high reputation. I need to be healthy and strong. Two, I need my message to connect to my customer. And three, I need to be able to do this at scale. Um, and that's really, really critical, to be able to have all three of these things. And I can't do that without proper tooling. So the urgency is, there have been recent changes in privacy policies in Apple Mail, Google Workspace, in Outlook. Evolving spam filters, reduced cold call effectiveness have made outbound email even more critical and fragile as a growth channel. As competition intensifies, teams without deliverability, confidence, and scalable workflows are rapidly falling behind. And that is our 6-step problem statement. Our audience, their problem, pain, cause, consequence, and urgency. And from these, you can see some of the features that I wanted to build didn't get built. For example, I really want to build a email validation tool in Stream that takes the email and goes out and does an SMTP handshake and verifies that it's a good email box. However, our customers are able to do that with their CRM. They're able to do that with their with their lead gen tool. There's third-party tools, Never Bounce, for example. They're able to do that with those tools, and those tools are already in their process. So implementing that, while it would be nifty, doesn't add a lot of value to our audience, and it doesn't directly speak to their problem statement. So it gets left out for now. Other things got escalated, such as the reputation mesh and blacklist monitoring. These things became way more important because we listened to our customer. We talked directly to them. The BPOs that we were talking to, they didn't even know that they could go look at blacklists, and they definitely didn't know that there's 27 of them. So what are they going to do? Go look at 27 blacklists to see if they're on one of them? How are they going to do that? That's not something that's going to be an effective process for them. Build it right into the tool. You connect an email address with the domain. I go and I check the blacklist for that domain, and I let you know if there's an issue there. That brings immediate value. It directly speaks to their problem statement. It directly speaks to their urgency. It reduces their consequences, and it starts to alleviate their pain. So it goes into the product. So now you've been out talking to some of our customers. You've been validating some of the you've been helping to set up our pilots. You've been validating the problem statement and making sure that our customer sees the same pain and feels the same pain that we have observed. What's been the feedback so far?
Yeah, it's definitely a problem because it takes a lot of time to manage DNS records, and being honest, is not the job of a sales rep. So it's a
Yeah.
burden for them. And even with if you are a founder, if you are a startup and you are doing founder-led sales, it takes a lot of time you could be putting into closing deals, basically. So
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, a sales organization, they don't have leverage with IT. IT making sure that there's good warm email infrastructure is not in their world. That's not their job.
yeah.
So whose job is it? If you look inside of an organization, if we go to some of the BPOs that we've talked to, everyone has the responsibility for ensuring that the company grows, that they have leads, but nobody has the ability. Nobody has the authority to solve the problem, and very few people have the knowledge. When I tell people, hey, you need to be running a reputation management mesh, and you need to be ensuring that your reply rate is high, and talk to them about what their email form should look like. Most of the time, they didn't even know that that was something that needed to be done, let alone have the skills to do it.
Yeah, that's right. So we are solving a real problem here,
Yep.
and as you said, it's not only about like making the process better, but also you're saving a lot of money while doing it.
Yeah, and also potentially the potential isn't in the savings as much as in the generation.
They
So
generate.
how much money have our people in our audience left on the table because they're not connecting their message with their audience, with their customer? And something that we've observed a lot as a technical founder, I see problems that a lot of times my customer doesn't see. And so I'll want to build a solution to that problem. But if my customer doesn't see it, then they're not feeling pain from it. They're not connecting to the urgency. They're not connecting to the consequence. So I can't sell it to them, because how do I sell somebody a solution to a problem that they don't see and feel? So what we have to do is we need to say, okay, I understand you. Now here's a solution. Do you feel that this solution solves your problem? Do you see the same problem that we see? And once you start getting yeses, and then you start getting people to saying, I want to run a pilot, I want to test this product, I would use this product. That's when you start to understand that you got a little bit of market traction. And that is the worst time to get cocky. That's when you keep listening hard, find more people to talk to, make sure that you're not in an echo chamber. Because the problem that Jesus found earlier, we had built our product with an incorrect premise on how outbound emails operate in the real world. We tested it. We tested our product. It worked in a prototype form. And then when Jesus started actually running the pilot and running the campaigns, then we started realizing we have problems. This is wrong. And if we had gone out and built a really refined product, really hardened it and formalized it, and then taken it out to be tested, we would have spent a lot of money and realized that we have a flawed product. So,
Yes.
all right, Valeria. Well, I know that you have a lot of work to do. You're out there making sure that we're ready for the pilot. How do people reach you if they're interested in being a part of Glowbox's pilot?
Yeah, they can reach me out on LinkedIn, or they can even send us a text message to our Contolo website
And
or LinkedIn page.
yeah, and early next week, we'll launch our website, glowboxstudio.net, and you'll be able to schedule a meeting with Valeria directly there.
That's
Awesome.
right.
All right. So let's get back to work.
Okay, cool. That was nice.